All right, here's our video for lesson 5-5 standard form. If you have any trouble with the difference between all three of the equations we have now learned, don't worry, we'll talk about the difference of all three in class. So here's our third form of a line, standard form. We've already learned our y equals, oops, I'm in a crayon, sorry. We've already learned our y equals mx plus b. We know our point slope. Here is standard form. AX plus BY equals C. This is what you need to know for standard form. Now, this is the least helpful form or equation of a line. With our slope-intercept, we know just by looking at it the slope of a line and the y-intercept, it makes it very easy to graph. With point slope, again, we know our slope and we can find a point, our x and y point to graph. Now with this form of a line, all we can find are the x and y intercepts. Now, real quick review, I'm going to go to the next page. An intercept, if I have a graph and a line goes through a graph, remember that this is my x-axis and my y. Wherever this line crosses the x-axis, that is my x-intercept. Notice that y equals 0, meaning to get to this point, say x is -4, my y value isn't up or down anything, it's 0. My y-intercept, when my line crosses the y-axis, x is 0, because I'm not going right or left of that origin. So y-intercept, x-intercept, when I have those 2 points, I can connect them and I have my line. So that's what standard form allows us to do. Now, given the equation, move that over here, here's the equation set up in standard form. AX plus BY equals C. To find, step 1, to find the x-intercept, if I put 0 in for y, because we know that the x-intercept y equals 0, if I put 0 in, I'm going to rewrite the equation. I'm going to put 0 in for the y. When I do that, this is just a big old 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So basically, I'm looking at just the 3x equals 24. I can solve for x, divide by 3, x equals 8. That is our x-intercept. On our graph, x crosses the x-axis at 8. We'll say that's 8. All right, step 2, finding the y-intercept. Now I'm going to put 0 in for x. So here's my equation, 3, here's my x, I'm making it 0, plus 4 times y is 24. This doesn't equal anything. I'm left with just the y portion. Divide by 4 to both sides, y is 6. That's my y-intercept. So I go back to my graph, I'm going to go up 6. I have 2 points that I can now connect and make a line. Now they didn't ask us to graph, but we found our x and y-intercepts. Let's do another example. We'll just do A. Here's my formula or my equation in standard form. To solve for x, I make y 0. I'm just going to cover up. If I put a 0 in for y, this would just kind of go away. My new equation is just 5x equals 60. Solve for x. X equals 12. Now, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm solving for y. So x is going to be 0. That goes away. I'm left with -6y equals 60. Divide by -6, divide by -6, y equals -10. Those are my 2 x and y intercepts. Now, graphing. I've kind of already showed you how to do this, so we'll go quickly. Here is my standard form equation. I need to set x and y 0 for each other to get the intercepts. So when I make y 0, I just have, so this kind of goes away, I have x equals -2. Luckily for us, that one's already done. There's our x-intercept. Now I'm going to erase what I just crossed off. Now I want to solve for my y-intercept. I'm going to make x 0, so I'm going to make that go away. New equation. -2y equals -2. Oopsies. 2. There we go. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. Y equals 1. So I have my x and my y-intercept. I'm going to graph them. X equals negative 2. Y equals 1. So they're very close together. And now I can just make my line that goes through my 2 points. That was a very bad line, but you know what I'm talking about. Let me skip that. All right. In this lesson, we also talk a little bit about horizontal and vertical lines. Now, you know a horizontal line has a slope of 0. And a vertical line has a slope that we call undefined. So, when you see something like x equals 3, that is technically an equation of a line. It's in standard form. Notice there's 1x, 0 y's, and our c part is 3. Over here, a line equation that just says y equals 3 can also be written in standard form. Notice there's no x's, there's 1 y, and it equals 3. So we're just going to use these shortcuts, but just know that they are equations of lines in standard form. A line of x equals 3, that means for all values of y, no matter what y is, x is always going to be 3. This creates a vertical line. For example, what if y was, so x is always 3, what if y was 2? 1, 2, 3, up 2. Oh, it's a point on the line. What if y was 7? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, look it's a point on the line. So x is always going to be 3 no matter what y is, so we write it like this. X equals 3. You just find 3 and you make a vertical line. Now, this one, y equals 3. This means for all values of x, y is 3. This produces a horizontal line. So if x was 0, y would be 3. 0, up 3. How about if x was negative 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 3. Notice it's a point on the line. So something written y equals is a horizontal line. Let's practice. X equals 4. 1, 2, 3. Here's 4. All values of y, x is never going to leave this 4 spot. That's A. How about B? X equals negative 1. Well, here's negative 1. All values, no matter what y is, x is negative 1. How about C equals 0, or sorry, C, y equals 0. Well, here's 0, 0. Y is never going to go up or down. It's a horizontal line on the origin or the x-axis. And our last one, D, y equals 1. Here's 1. Again, it's a horizontal line at y equals 1. So if that didn't make sense, go back and watch how I found those lines. Problem 4. We have an equation here written in y equals mx plus b. Y equals slope times x plus our y-intercept. I'm going to rewrite it so it's bigger. We want to transfer this equation to standard form. We know that standard form, we just learned about it, is ax plus by equals c. So it's not that hard. Notice in this formula, you don't want any fractions, okay? We want just integers. So to get rid of the fraction we see in this equation, I am going to multiply this whole side by this denominator of 7. When I do that, I have to do it to this side as well. Remember, both sides of the equation. So over here, I have 7y. Now, this 7 times the denominator cancels each other out. So I'm just left with negative 3x. And I'm going to distribute the 7 to the 5 plus 35. We're almost done. We need the x and the y's together on the same side. 35 will remain as our c. So I'm going to add this 3x over here to get it over here. So I have 3x plus 7y equals 35. This now is in standard form. I'll do one more example. However, in this example, my equation is starting in point-slope form. I want to go from point slope form to y equals mx plus b. It'll be easier then to go to standard form. Oh, that's a y. Okay, here we go. Stay with me. I am going to distribute and get rid of these parentheses. Negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times 6 is negative 6 over 3, or minus 2. Now, it's almost in this form. I just need to get rid of this minus 2. So I'm going to add to y equals negative 1/3 x. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so I don't have to write anything. Now, to get to this form from here, remember, get rid of this denominator. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3 and over here. So I have 3y equals, well, 3 times this fraction cancels out, so I have a negative x. Standard form has the x's and y's together, so I'm going to add the x over here. X plus 3y equals 0. This is our standard form equation. Lastly, problem 5. We're going to use a word problem to write an equation in standard form. Memorize that equation if you haven't done so. A media download store sells songs for $1 each. So songs are my X value, and movies for $12 each. Y value. You have $60 to spend. Write and graph an equation that describes the items you can purchase. What are 3 combinations of numbers of songs and movies you can purchase? Right now, I just want to focus on writing the equation and graphing. I've already done it for you. As they gave me the information, I put it into standard form. So without the dollar signs, it would be 1 times x, $1 for songs, and $12 for movies. However many, or the combination I get of the two, I just can't spend more than $60. It needs to equal 60. So there's my equation in standard form. If I wanted to graph this, I can only, with this form of an equation, I can only graph using the x and the y intercepts. I'm going to abbreviate that. To do that, I make y 0. Well, if I cover up 12y, 1x equals 60. There's my x-intercept. If I want to get my y-intercept, make x 0. X times 1 times 0 is 0, so 12y equals 60. Y equals 5. Then to graph, y equals 5. X equals 60. I'd have to be counting by 30, 40, 50. Here's my 60. This is my graph of that equation. Then I could later find out what 3 combinations of numbers and songs I could, whatever my, let's just do one example. If I bought 20, let's see, our x value is songs, I'd go up to see that I could find about 4 movies. That would be one combination, but you can get that right from our graph. Any of these points would be a combination of movies and songs. All right, real quick, and we'll talk about this in class, but this is a summary of what you need to know with these 3 linear equations that we've learned. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Point slope form, there's the formula. And standard form, ax plus by equals c. We will eventually be practicing going from one to the other. We did a little bit today. But for class, please complete 1 through 5 of the lesson check. Pause it, get these written down, or solve them as you go. Bring them to class. It's very important that you have these finished.